Gresham, Oregon, a town nestled against the majestic backdrop of the Cascade Mountains. Imagine a place where lush forests meet charming neighborhoods, where the air is crisp and clean, and the pace of life is refreshingly slow. This was Gresham, a town where people knew their neighbors, where children played freely in the streets, and where the most pressing issue was often which local bakery had the best apple pie. It was the kind of place that embodied small-town America, a place where people felt safe and secure, a place where nothing truly bad ever seemed to happen. Life in Gresham was like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life. Neighbors chatted over white picket fences, sharing stories and cups of freshly brewed coffee. Kids rode their bikes down tree-lined streets, their laughter echoing in the afternoon sun. There was a sense of community that ran deep, a feeling of belonging that permeated every corner of this idyllic town. Gresham was a place where people dreamed of raising their families, a place where life unfolded at a gentle, reassuring pace. But beneath this veneer of tranquility, a storm was brewing. A darkness that no one could have anticipated was about to shatter the town's peace, leaving an indelible mark on its heart and soul. October in Gresham was a magical time. The air turned crisp and cool, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Leaves transformed into vibrant hues of gold, crimson, and amber, creating a breathtaking tapestry of color across the landscape. Mornings were often draped in a soft mist, lending an ethereal quality to the already picturesque town. It was a time for pumpkin spice lattes, cozy sweaters, and the comforting crunch of leaves underfoot. On this particular October morning, a blanket of mist hung low over Gresham, shrouding the town in an eerie silence. The rising sun struggled to pierce through the thick fog, casting long, distorted shadows across the dew-kissed lawns. The air was heavy with moisture, pregnant with the promise of a crisp autumn day. But beneath this veneer of tranquility, a sense of unease lingered in the air, a premonition of the darkness that was about to unfold. It was a day that began like any other, the residents of Gresham going about their daily routines, oblivious to the sinister events that were about to unfold. Little did they know that this seemingly ordinary day would soon be etched in their memories, forever marked by tragedy and loss. The tranquility of this idyllic town was about to be shattered, replaced by a chilling mystery that would test the very fabric of their community. Whitney lived in a cozy apartment complex nestled among the fir trees, a place where neighbors knew each other by name and looked out for one another. It was the kind of place where you could leave your door unlocked without a second thought, a testament to the sense of security that permeated Gresham. Whitney, with her trusting nature and infectious smile, was a beloved resident of her complex, her cheerful greetings and warm personality brightening the days of those who crossed her path. She was a familiar face at the local coffee shop, where she worked part-time, her laughter and cheerful banter a welcome sound to both colleagues and customers alike. Whitney was a creature of habit, her routine as predictable as the sunrise. Every morning she would leave her apartment at the same time, her husband, Clint, waving goodbye from the doorway as she set off for her shift at Starbucks. It was a routine that brought comfort and normalcy to their lives, a testament to the love and stability they shared. But on this particular October morning, something was different. The air crackled with an unspoken tension, a sense of foreboding that hung heavy in the mist-laden air. As Whitney stepped out of her apartment and into the pre-dawn chill, she had no idea that she was walking into a nightmare, a chilling scenario that would shatter the illusion of safety that had always enveloped her life. The tranquility of her world was about to be irrevocably broken. Unbeknownst to Whitney, a pair of eyes watched her every move from the shadows, their gaze filled with a chilling intensity. Someone she knew, someone she trusted, someone who lived within the very walls of her seemingly safe community, was about to betray her in the most horrific way imaginable. News of Whitney's disappearance spread through Gresham like wildfire, whipping through the streets and alleys, seeping into homes and businesses, leaving a trail of disbelief and fear in its wake. The community, so accustomed to the rhythm of ordinary life, was suddenly confronted with the unthinkable, the realization that evil could lurk even in the most idyllic of settings. The disappearance of one of their own shattered the illusion of safety that had long defined Gresham, leaving residents grappling with a chilling question: how could this happen here? The quaint town, once a sanctuary of peace and tranquility, was now enveloped in a blanket of fear and uncertainty. The laughter of children playing in the streets was replaced by hushed whispers and anxious glances. Neighbors who once greeted each other with warm smiles now eyed each other with suspicion, their trust shaken to the core. The disappearance of Whitney Heichel had exposed a dark underbelly to their idyllic town, a chilling reminder that evil could lurk even in the most unexpected of places. As days turned into sleepless nights, the search for Whitney intensified, transforming the once peaceful streets of Gresham into a whirlwind of activity. Volunteers fanned out across the town and beyond, their faces etched with worry as they scoured parks, forests, and every nook and cranny that could possibly hold a clue to her whereabouts. Flyers bearing Whitney's smiling face seemed to adorn every street corner, a poignant reminder of the young life that had been so cruelly ripped away. The community, united in grief and desperation, clung to the hope that Whitney would be found safe and sound. But as time wore on and the leads grew colder, a sense of dread began to settle over Gresham, a chilling premonition that the worst was yet to come. Whitney Heichel, a vibrant young woman of 21, was the epitome of kindness and warmth. Her life revolved around her faith, her family, and her friends. Married to her high school sweetheart, Clint, she found joy in the simple things: sharing a cup of coffee with her husband in the morning, catching up with her family over Sunday brunch, or lending a listening ear to a friend in need. Her days were filled with the routines and rituals that brought comfort and meaning to her life. On the morning of October 16, 2012, Whitney woke up early, as she always did. The faint glow of dawn peeked through the curtains, casting a soft light across her bedroom. She could hear the familiar sounds of Clint stirring in the kitchen, the gentle clinking of mugs as he prepared their morning coffee. It was a scene that played out almost every day, a testament to the comfortable rhythm of their lives together. Slipping out of bed, Whitney went through her usual morning routine, her movements as familiar as the lines on her palm. She dressed for work in her Starbucks uniform, her name tag pinned neatly above her heart. As she brushed her long dark hair, she couldn't help but smile at her reflection in the mirror. Life was good, she thought to herself, a simple prayer of gratitude escaping her lips. After sharing a quick breakfast with Clint, Whitney grabbed her purse and keys, her husband's loving gaze following her as she headed out the door. It was a short commute to her job at the local Starbucks, a mere 5-minute drive through their quiet neighborhood. With a wave and a smile, she backed her black Ford Explorer out of the driveway and set off, unaware that this seemingly ordinary Tuesday would be her last. Clint watched from the doorway as Whitney's car disappeared around the corner, his heart warmed by the sight of her taillights fading into the distance. It was a ritual they'd repeated countless times before, a testament to the comfortable rhythm of their lives together. As he turned back to their quiet apartment, Clint couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It was a subtle unease, a prickling at the back of his neck, but it was enough to make him pause. He glanced at the clock on the wall, its ticking seeming to amplify the silence in the apartment. Whitney was usually punctual, always sending him a quick text when she arrived at work. He checked his phone, his heart sinking a little with each passing minute that her name didn't flash across the screen. "She's probably just busy," he muttered to himself, trying to rationalize his growing concern. Minutes stretched into an hour, and still, there was no word from Whitney. The unease that had been simmering in the pit of Clint's stomach began to churn, transforming into a knot of dread that tightened with each unanswered call. He dialed her number again and again, each unanswered ring sending a fresh wave of panic through him. Where could she be? Clint tried to push down the rising sense of panic, reminding himself that there were perfectly logical explanations for Whitney's silence. Maybe her phone had died. Maybe she was caught in traffic. Maybe there was a line at the coffee shop, and she simply hadn't had a chance to text. But deep down, a chilling premonition began to take root. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. As hours slipped away, Clint's concern morphed into full-blown panic. He reached out to Whitney's workplace, his heart plummeting when her manager confirmed she had never clocked in for her shift. Every possible scenario played through his mind, each more terrifying than the last. His mind raced, struggling to make sense of the impossible. This wasn't like Whitney. She would never willingly worry him like this. With a sense of urgency that bordered on desperation, Clint contacted the Gresham Police Department, his voice trembling as he reported his wife missing. Every second counted, and he knew that time was slipping away. He clung to the hope that this was all a terrible misunderstanding, that Whitney would walk through the door any minute, her face apologetic, and her smile as radiant as ever. The Gresham Police Department, accustomed to the tranquility of their town, sprang into action, recognizing the urgency of the situation. A missing persons report was filed, and the wheels of a full-scale investigation were set in motion. Detectives began by retracing Whitney's last known steps, hoping to find some trace of the young woman who seemed to have vanished into thin air. Word of Whitney's disappearance spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community of Gresham, leaving a trail of shock and disbelief in its wake. Neighbors gathered in hushed groups, their faces etched with worry as they shared what little information they had. Volunteers, their hearts heavy with concern, rallied together, determined to do everything in their power to bring Whitney home. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across Gresham, a glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness. A call came into the police department, the voice on the other end shaky with a mixture of fear and relief. A black Ford Explorer, matching the description of Whitney's vehicle, had been found abandoned in the parking lot of a Walmart, miles away from where she was last seen. The discovery sent a surge of adrenaline through the investigation. Could this be the break they had been waiting for? Could this abandoned vehicle hold the key to unlocking the mystery of Whitney's disappearance? Detectives and forensic teams descended upon the scene, their every move scrutinized by a growing crowd of onlookers and a battery of news cameras that had set up camp in the parking lot. The vehicle itself was a treasure trove of potential evidence. The passenger side window was shattered, sending shards of glass shimmering across the asphalt. Inside, the vehicle was in disarray, Whitney's belongings scattered across the seats and floorboards. But it was the mud caked on the tires, a stark contrast to the paved roads of Gresham, that sent a chill down the spines of the investigators. This was no random act, this was deliberate, this was sinister. The discovery of Whitney's abandoned vehicle sent shockwaves through Gresham, shattering the last vestiges of hope that this was simply a case of miscommunication or a young woman gone astray. The details, broadcast across every news channel and plastered on the front pages of every local newspaper, painted a grim picture, replacing the initial concern with a chilling fear that gripped the community. The image of Whitney's empty car, its shattered window a gaping wound against the backdrop of the familiar Walmart parking lot, became a haunting symbol of her disappearance. The tranquility that had once defined Gresham was replaced by an undercurrent of fear, a chilling realization that something sinister had invaded their safe haven. The focus of the investigation shifted from a missing persons case to something far more ominous. The shattered window, the mud on the tires, the distance from Whitney's usual route all pointed to a terrifying conclusion. This was no accident. Whitney Heichel had been abducted. As darkness fell over Gresham, casting long shadows across the anxious faces of its residents, a sense of urgency gripped the investigation. Every passing moment could mean the difference between life and death for the missing young woman. The search for Whitney Heichel had morphed into a desperate race against time, a fight to bring her home before it was too late. The discovery of Whitney's abandoned Ford Explorer, far from providing answers, only deepened the mystery surrounding her disappearance. It was like piecing together a jigsaw puzzle where crucial pieces were missing, each new clue adding another layer of complexity to the already baffling case. The investigators, their faces etched with a mixture of determination and frustration, meticulously combed through every inch of the vehicle, searching for any trace of Whitney or her abductor. The shattered passenger window, a stark reminder of the violence that had shattered the peace of Gresham, yielded a few crucial fingerprints, their patterns carefully lifted and sent to the lab for analysis. The mud caked on the tires, a stark contrast to the paved streets of Whitney's usual route, told a silent story of a journey off the beaten path, a journey into the unknown. Soil samples, carefully collected and analyzed, pointed to a remote area in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, a place where dense forests swallowed the sunlight and secrets lingered in the shadows. But it was the discovery of Whitney's cell phone, discarded in a ditch miles away from the abandoned vehicle, that sent a chill down the spines of the investigators. The phone, its screen cracked, and its battery drained, held a treasure trove of data, a digital breadcrumb trail that could potentially lead them to Whitney and her captor. The grainy images flickered across the screen, captured by the unblinking eye of a security camera mounted above an ATM at a nearby gas station. A man, his face obscured by a hooded sweatshirt, his movements furtive and nervous, stood at the ATM, Whitney's debit card clutched in his gloved hand. He punched in the pin with a practiced ease that belied his anxious demeanor, his eyes darting back and forth as if he expected to be caught at any moment. The investigators, their faces illuminated by the cold glow of the monitor, leaned closer, their gazes intent as they tried to discern any identifying features of the shadowy figure. As days turned into sleepless nights, the investigation into Whitney's disappearance intensified, transforming the once peaceful town of Gresham into a cauldron of speculation and suspicion. Neighbors who had once exchanged friendly greetings over white picket fences now eyed each other with suspicion, their conversations laced with a mixture of concern and apprehension. Whispers of the man in the surveillance footage, his image seared into the collective memory of Gresham, followed the investigators like shadows. Theories fueled by fear and speculation spread through the community like wildfire. The investigation took a shocking turn when suspicion fell upon an individual deeply ingrained in Whitney's life, Jonathan Holt, a 24-year-old neighbor who resided in the same apartment complex as Whitney and Clint. Holt, a fellow member of the Jehovah's Witness congregation that Whitney and Clint attended, had always maintained a quiet and unassuming demeanor. Yet, as the investigators delved deeper into Holt's life, a series of inconsistencies emerged, casting a long shadow of doubt over his carefully constructed facade. Cell phone records placed him in the vicinity of the gas station where Whitney's ATM card was used and near the wooded area where her phone was later discovered. The evidence against Jonathan Holt, circumstantial at first, began to mount, weaving a damning tapestry of guilt that was becoming impossible to ignore. Faced with the mounting evidence and the unwavering gaze of the investigators, Holt's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. His denials, once emphatic and resolute, became laced with hesitation, his eyes darting nervously around the interrogation room as if searching for an escape route. As the weight of the evidence and the relentless pressure of the interrogation took their toll, Jonathan Holt, the seemingly harmless neighbor, the devout churchgoer, the man who had shared smiles and meals with the Heichels, finally broke. In the sterile confines of the interrogation room, Jonathan Holt's carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing a darkness that no one could have anticipated. Holt, his gaze fixed on some unseen point on the wall, recounted the events of that fateful October morning with a chilling detachment, his words like shards of ice piercing the silence of the room. He spoke of asking Whitney for a ride, a seemingly innocuous request that she, with her characteristic kindness, readily agreed to. He described the way her guard dropped, her trust shining in her eyes as she unlocked the passenger door of her black Ford Explorer. As Jonathan Holt's confession unfolded, the investigators were transported from the sterile environment of the interrogation room to the rugged, densely wooded slopes of Larch Mountain. Holt, his voice devoid of emotion, described driving Whitney's black Ford Explorer deeper and deeper into the embrace of the forest, the paved road giving way to a rutted dirt track that snaked its way up the mountainside. He spoke of parking the vehicle in a secluded clearing, the silence of the forest pressing in on them, broken only by the distant cry of a hawk circling overhead. It was there, in the shadow of Larch Mountain, that Holt's depravity reached its horrifying crescendo. The news of Whitney Heichel's murder, a gut punch to the very soul of Gresham, spread through the town like a virus, infecting every home, every business, every heart with its toxic blend of grief, anger, and disbelief. The community, once a tapestry woven from threads of trust and camaraderie, now found itself unraveling, its residents reeling from the shockwaves of Holt's confession. Neighbors who had once shared laughter and cups of sugar now eyed each other with suspicion, their conversations laced with a mixture of fear and anger. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the grief-stricken town, the residents of Gresham gathered in the parking lot of the church that Whitney and her husband had attended, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of countless candles. Jonathan Holt's confession, a chilling account of his calculated cruelty, sent shockwaves through the Gresham Police Department, its details seared into the minds of even the most seasoned detectives. The case, initially a missing persons investigation, had morphed into a horrifying homicide, the evidence painting a grim picture of betrayal, depravity, and cold-blooded murder. The detectives, their personal feelings of anger and disgust pushed aside by their unwavering professionalism, meticulously pieced together the puzzle of Whitney's final hours, their determination fueled by a shared sense of duty to the victim and her grieving family. They retraced Holt's movements, their steps heavy with the weight of his crimes, their eyes scanning the landscape for any trace of evidence that he might have overlooked. The courtroom, its walls adorned with the somber trappings of justice, was filled to capacity, the air thick with a palpable tension as Jonathan Holt, his once boyish features now etched with a chilling stoicism, stood before the judge. The prosecution, armed with a mountain of evidence and the chilling testimony of the detectives who had painstakingly built the case against him, presented a compelling narrative of a crime fueled by a toxic blend of obsession, rage, and a callous disregard for human life. Holt, his gaze fixed on some unseen point in the distance, sat impassively as the details of his crimes were recounted, his demeanor betraying no hint of remorse or regret. Jonathan Holt, his fate sealed by his own actions, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His punishment a stark reminder that even in the face of unimaginable evil, justice, however imperfect, would be served. The courtroom, heavy with the weight of grief and the specter of Jonathan Holt's heinous crimes, became a crucible for Whitney Heichel's family. Dee Dee Spitzer, Whitney's mother, her face etched with a grief so profound it seemed to emanate from her very being, stood before the court, her voice trembling but resolute as she addressed the man who had taken her daughter's life. Her words, measured and deliberate, cut through the silence of the courtroom, each syllable a testament to a mother's love, a mother's pain, a mother's unwavering determination to honor her daughter's memory. "You took someone precious," she said, her voice laced with a quiet intensity that commanded the attention of every soul in the courtroom. Clint Heichel, Whitney's husband, his face a mask of grief, his eyes reflecting a pain that no words could adequately express, sat silently beside Dee Dee, his hand resting on hers in a gesture of comfort and shared sorrow. The courtroom, already heavy with the weight of their loss, seemed to shrink, the silence amplified by the unspoken emotions that filled the space. His silence, more profound than any words he could have uttered, spoke volumes. It spoke of a love cut tragically short, of dreams shattered, of a future stolen by an act of unimaginable cruelty. It spoke of the pain of a life forever intertwined with Whitney's, a life now forever defined by her absence. Clint's silence was a testament to the depth of his love for Whitney, a love so profound, so all-encompassing that it transcended the boundaries of language. His presence in the courtroom, a beacon of strength amidst the storm of grief, spoke volumes about his character, his unwavering commitment to honoring his wife's memory by facing their shared nightmare head-on. His silence was a powerful indictment of Jonathan Holt's actions, a stark reminder of the devastating ripple effects of violence, the invisible wounds that cut deep and heal slowly, if at all. It was a silence that resonated throughout the courtroom, a silent plea for understanding, for compassion, for a world where such senseless acts of violence would cease to exist. Jonathan Holt, his face a mask of indifference, his eyes devoid of any visible emotion, stood before the judge, his fate hanging in the balance. The weight of his crimes, the sheer brutality of his actions, seemed to press down on the courtroom, suffocating the air with a sense of dread and sorrow. The judge, his voice a somber counterpoint to the hushed whispers that filled the courtroom, recounted the details of Holt's crimes, his words painting a chilling picture of a life callously extinguished, a community forever scarred by the shadow of his actions. He spoke of the trust that Holt had violated, the sanctity of life he had disregarded, the pain he had inflicted on so many innocent lives. "This is one of the most senseless, horrific crimes I've ever presided over," the judge said, his voice laced with a mixture of sadness and anger. "Your actions have not only taken the life of a young woman with so much promise, but they have also shattered the peace of an entire community." The judge then handed down the sentence that would forever define Jonathan Holt's existence: life in prison, without the possibility of parole. The words, heavy with finality, echoed through the courtroom, a stark reminder that even in the face of unimaginable evil, justice, however imperfect, would be served. As Holt was led away, his shoulders slumped, his gaze fixed on the floor. A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom, a palpable release of tension that did little to ease the pain that lingered in the air. Jonathan Holt would spend the rest of his days behind bars, his freedom forfeit, his life a testament to the devastating consequences of his actions. In the wake of the trial and sentencing, a profound sense of loss and grief continued to hang over Gresham, a constant reminder of the darkness that had invaded their once peaceful community. The scars of Whitney Heichel's murder ran deep, a chilling testament to the fragility of life and the insidious nature of evil. Yet, even in their grief, the people of Gresham found solace in the memories of the young woman whose life had been so tragically cut short. They remembered her infectious laugh, her kind heart, her unwavering faith, and her ability to find joy in the simplest of things. They honored her memory by reaching out to one another, by strengthening the bonds of community, by refusing to let fear and suspicion overshadow the values that had always defined their town. They channeled their grief into acts of kindness, volunteering their time, donating to charities, and spreading Whitney's message of love and compassion. And so, Whitney Heichel's legacy lived on, not in the shadow of her murder, but in the countless lives she had touched with her kindness, her warmth, and her unwavering belief in the goodness of others. Her story, though forever intertwined with tragedy, became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, like a single candle flame, has the power to illuminate the world. The quaint town of Gresham, Oregon, once a picture of tranquility nestled against the majestic backdrop of the Cascade Mountains, found itself grappling with the chilling aftermath of Whitney Heichel's murder. The brutal act, committed by someone they knew, someone they trusted, sent shockwaves through the community, shattering the illusion of safety that had long defined their lives. The idyllic bubble they had cherished, the belief that such horrors only unfolded in distant cities, lay shattered, replaced by a chilling realization. Evil could lurk even in the most familiar of places, hiding behind friendly smiles and seemingly ordinary lives. The betrayal cut deep, leaving an open wound on the soul of the community. How could someone they knew, someone who had shared their meals, their laughter, their lives, commit such a heinous act? The question echoed through the streets, whispered in hushed tones, a constant reminder of the fragility of trust and the insidious nature of evil. The sense of security, the belief in the inherent goodness of their neighbors, that had once been a source of comfort, now felt like a cruel illusion. The impact of Whitney's murder extended far beyond the immediate circle of her family and friends. It rippled outwards, touching every corner of Gresham, leaving an indelible mark on the collective psyche of the town. Parents held their children a little tighter, their hearts heavy with a fear they had never known before. Neighbors who had once left their doors unlocked now double-checked deadbolts, their eyes scanning the streets for any sign of danger. The tranquility of Gresham, once a source of pride, had been irrevocably shattered, replaced by a pervasive sense of vulnerability, a chilling reminder that even in the most idyllic of settings, darkness could lurk just beneath the surface, waiting for the opportune moment to rear its ugly head. In the aftermath of the tragedy, as the media frenzy surrounding Whitney Heichel's murder reached its peak, it became all too easy to lose sight of the young woman at the heart of the story. Her name, once whispered with love by family and friends, was now splashed across headlines, broadcast on news channels, and debated on social media, her image becoming a commodity, a symbol of tragedy, a cautionary tale. But Whitney was more than just a headline, more than just a statistic in the annals of true crime. She was a daughter, a wife, a friend, a cherished member of her community. She was a young woman with dreams, aspirations, and a zest for life that shone brightly in everything she did. She was a devout Christian, her faith a guiding force in her life, her kindness and compassion extending to everyone she met. To remember Whitney solely as a victim is to deny her the justice of a life fully lived, a life filled with love, laughter, and a deep-seated belief in the goodness of others. It is essential to look beyond the sensationalized headlines, beyond the gruesome details of her murder, and to see the beautiful, vibrant young woman whose life was tragically cut short. Behind the face on the missing person posters, behind the evidence presented in the courtroom, behind the grim details of the investigation, was a real person. A woman who loved and was loved. A woman who made a difference in the lives of those around her. Her story, though forever intertwined with tragedy, is ultimately a testament to the power of the human spirit, the enduring strength of love, and the importance of cherishing every precious moment of life. The chilling tale of Whitney Heichel stands as a stark reminder that the illusion of safety can be a dangerous thing. It lulls us into a false sense of security, blinding us to the potential for darkness that exists even in the most seemingly idyllic of settings. It whispers that such horrors only happen to other people in other places far removed from our own sheltered lives. But Whitney's story teaches us that evil does not discriminate, that it does not adhere to zip codes or socioeconomic boundaries. It can emerge from the shadows of our own communities, from the seemingly familiar faces of those we interact with daily. It reminds us that vigilance is not paranoia, but rather a necessary component of self-preservation, a recognition that the world can be a dangerous place, even in our own backyards. This is not to say that we should live in a perpetual state of fear, our every interaction clouded by suspicion, but it does underscore the importance of awareness, of trusting our instincts, of taking reasonable precautions to protect ourselves and our loved ones. It reminds us that community safety is a shared responsibility, that we all have a role to play in looking out for one another, in reporting suspicious activity, and in creating an environment where criminals feel less emboldened. The tragedy of Whitney Heichel's murder serves as a wake-up call, a stark reminder that the world can be a dangerous place, even in the most seemingly idyllic of settings. It is a call to action, a plea for vigilance, a reminder that by working together, by supporting one another, and by refusing to be lulled into a false sense of security, we can create a safer world for ourselves and for generations to come. The legacy of Whitney Heichel extends far beyond the tragic circumstances of her death. It lives on in the hearts of those who loved her, in the memories they cherish, and in the countless acts of kindness and compassion inspired by her life. Her story, though forever intertwined with darkness, serves as a beacon of light, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable evil, the human spirit has the power to endure, to heal, and to emerge stronger. Whitney's family, their hearts forever broken yet bound together by an unbreakable love, have chosen to honor her memory by embracing the light, not the darkness. They have established a foundation in her name, dedicated to promoting acts of kindness, supporting victims of violence, and fostering a sense of community. Their strength, their resilience, their unwavering belief in the power of love stand as a testament to the enduring nature of the human spirit. The people of Gresham, though forever marked by the tragedy that unfolded in their midst, have also chosen to embrace hope, to rebuild their shattered sense of community, and to honor Whitney's memory by living lives filled with purpose and meaning. They have come together, not as strangers united by tragedy, but as a family bound by a shared sense of loss and a determination to create a brighter future. And so Whitney Heichel's legacy lives on, not in the shadow of her murder, but in the countless lives she touched with her kindness, her warmth, and her unwavering belief in the goodness of others. Her story, though forever etched in the annals of true crime, is ultimately a testament to the power of love, the resilience of the human spirit, and the importance of cherishing every precious moment of life.